On this episode of Just Informed Talk, the latest new Q posts have a special message for Edward Snowden that you guys are going to want to stick around to hear. Plus, Q's got more insight and theory on what has happened with this Jussie Smollett story and a special conversation between Robert Mueller and the new Attorney General, William Barr, is going to blow your mind. Plus, much more. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. I always start by saying thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you're notified when these videos get posted, and make sure you hit the like button if you guys like what you see. So, this is where we're going to pick up. It's right where we left off. Of course, we left off at Q post 2764, and we're picking up at Q post 2765. For all of you guys out there who are just coming into this, I always encourage you to come back here, watch these last few videos. It'll get you caught up. You can go back as far as you want. It'll get you caught up on everything that we've been doing here on the Q channel and on QAnon. And if you guys want to learn more about what QAnon, the Great Awakening is, and you're like, what's this guy talking about? Come here to the landing page and watch this video. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? It'll give you all the information you need about what QAnon is, how to get involved, how to do the research, how to find the research, and all that other good stuff. So I always encourage everyone to come check that out. So today, obviously we're picking up right where we left off in the last video. We pretty much stopped here, but Q kept posting and there's a lot more information to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. So if you guys remember, we had this post from Q back on November 7, 2018, where he basically lays out, he gives us his President Trump tweet, and it says, "We got what we needed. Thank you, Patriots. Senate means everything. Think judges, Supreme Court, and Cabinet. D-class overrides all potential House blockades. POTUS has ultimate authority. Shift to Senate judiciary oversight from House to now occurs. Stronger position and held in reserve for this scenario. Lower chamber House used as 2-year starter. Upper chamber Senate will be used as 2-year closer, next 2-year closer," right? And then it talks about the Judiciary Committee's jurisdiction. And it talks about military plan, no impact regarding ongoing investigations. Team is stronger, pro Q. And then Q links to this article. Now, what is this article? It is Lindsey Graham calling out Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director at the FBI, for his comments that were made in a 60 Minutes interview, where he basically some incredibly revealing remarks about his time at the FBI, where he was working with Rod Rosenstein and others to basically work against President Trump and find a way to enact the 25th Amendment. Now, since then, he's actually backtracked these comments, coming out with a backtrack on these comments with an official statement that's been released, which basically says that certain statements he made were incorrect and out of context and misrepresented. Although, if you actually watch the clip, it's very clear what he's saying. And Lindsey Graham is actually pointing out that he's going to subpoena the former FBI chief if he doesn't show up, because they want to have more answers to these questions, right? And here's a quote from Lindsey Graham where he was on Face the Nation, where he basically says, "We're going to find out what happened here, and the only way I know to find out is to call the people in under oath and find out through questioning who's telling the truth, because the underlying accusation is beyond stunning," right? Graham goes on to say here, "But we've got to get to the bottom of it. What are people to think after they watch 60 Minutes when they hear this accusation by the acting FBI director, that the deputy attorney general encouraged him to try to find ways to count votes to replace the president? That can't go unaddressed." And I couldn't agree more. And this article actually outlines exactly what the whole plan was from the beginning, and that's what Q's post is meant to tell us, that this was a planned movement. McCabe is just as involved as they all are, and they're all going to be exposed, and they're all going to have their time. Trust me, as it were. That's what we have to deal with. And Q says, was this planned? Military planned? See? We knew about this. Anons knew. See, that's the thing you got to remember. We knew this was coming, and this is going to lead to more investigations, especially coming out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, where they're going to be looking at what happened at the FBI, what happened with Andrew McCabe going to meet with the acting Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, where they're discussing behind the scenes, apparently, according to Andrew McCabe's own words, ways to go after the president for the 25th Amendment. And this is happening. Or this did happen, apparently. Even though he's backtracked now and says it doesn't. So now we really don't know, because he said one thing and now he's saying another. So it's like, how do you even know what the truth is? I'll leave that to you guys to put together with that as you may. Now, the next post here, very interesting. This is actually, if you guys remember back February 9th, about 9 days ago, we had Q give us this post. Now, this post is basically talking about what was going to happen. The Scaramucci model and Rod Rosenstein, how he's going out, Orr's going to be removed, Barr's coming in. And I think the one thing that we're supposed to take away from this, without me going through this all over again, because we've already gone through it once, is this little statement right here. Whitaker remain DOJ senior staff. Now, why is that important? Well, it probably has a lot to do with this Politico article that Q wants us to look at, where it talks about Matthew Whitaker is going to stay at the Justice Department following his stint as the acting AG, and he's going to remain with William Barr working along his side as a senior staff member. Now, I wonder how Q could have known that. I guess nobody can put 2 and 2 together, but I can. And I'm telling you that this was something we were told about. And Q asked, Whitaker remain on DOJ senior staff? Senior counselor in the Associate Attorney General's office? Planned? Q. So again, Q's telling us that there is a bigger plan, and there's a plan that's taking place behind the scenes. Some things we can know, some things we can't know, and some things we can know over time. That's the way this works, because there is a certain level of security that has to be maintained, but at the same time, the information is meant to get out to the people so that we know what's going on. We can see what's happening behind the scenes, and you guys can read that article. I'll link it. I'll link all these articles, don't worry, down in the description if you want to read them. Now, the next one, and if you have anything else, please leave it down in the comments on this that I may have missed, but I think that's basically the gist of that. The next one, though, is very, very interesting. It's a special message to Edward Snowden. It says, at Snowden, what happens when Russia gives you up? Will the CIA protect you? Sleep is important. Q. Wow. So we all know the story of Edward Snowden. The alleged story of what happened, I'll break it down in a nutshell here real quick. Edward Snowden was recruited by the CIA. He was trained at the Farm, which is a CIA training recruitment center or whatever. Then he was sent as an infiltrator to the NSA. Now, why was he sent there? According to allegations and theories that are out there, he was sent to the NSA in order to steal those specific tools that he exposed through he exposed the NSA's surveillance. Why would he do that? Well, it wasn't just because he was some, altruistically nice guy who wants what's best for the world, apparently. According to theories that are out there, it basically was because he was involved in sabotaging the NSA so that the CIA, in conjunction with the Obama administration, could make deals like Uranium One and deals like the Iran deal, right, without having any scrutiny or having any physical evidence, as in recordings, emails, metadata, all that stuff. They didn't want the NSA to have the ability to do that. So what do? They gave the NSA's surveillance technology to their biggest enemies, right? Thereby effectively making the NSA useless and unable, and basically deaf and blind, unable to see what was going on. And that's when you see the Uranium One deal happen. That's when you see the whole Iran deal start to come into its form. That's where all this comes from. And the Iran deal, what do you think the Iran deal was about? You guys already know about Uranium One. You know what the Clinton Foundation and the connections there with Rosatom and giving 20% of the uranium to the Russians. Well, what was the deal with Iran? It was selling access to the emerging market of Iran to the old blue bloods in the EU. Guys, this is all crazy, but it seems to be that may be a possibility, but that's just the question. Did that happen? I don't know. You guys are going to have to use your own logical thinking and tell me what you think. Now, the next one is interesting because it talks about Jussie Smollett. Now, you guys probably know this story. This guy, Jussie Smollett, apparently he was out one night in some place in, I think, Chicago, and he was attacked, he said, by some guys who were, I guess, MAGA Trump supporters who put a noose around his neck. That's basically what the story was, the official story that he put out there. Now, that all is pretty awful until you actually look at what the actual story is. Now, here on the cover of Drudge, obviously, there is this story out here about The Wolf Who Cried MAGA, where it talks about these brothers, these Nigerian brothers, who are alleging that Jussie Smollett paid them to participate in the alleged attack, right? So he paid them, according to these two Nigerian brothers, they said that he paid them to attack him in order to make it look like a hate crime, in order to garner support for something. And Q has a good idea of what that support might have been garnered for. right? And it takes us to this Q takes us to this Fox News article about Cory Booker's, who's quote unquote withholding judgment on Smollett case after calling it attempted modern day lynching. Now, remember, right before or right after this whole attack happened, the media ran 100 miles an hour with this story, and they used it to pressure senators inside of Capitol Hill to pass legislation of anti-lynching legislation, right? That actually went through. Now, why was that important? Well, Q pointed out to us before, what is the punishment that was usually reserved for people who commit high treason? What do you think it was? So they passed this they passed this anti-lynching bill after an attempted modern day lynching took place. Now, of course, anyone in their right mind would be appalled at that kind of attack, and they would condemn it immediately. And of course, I think any normal person would say that it's sick and disgusting what was alleged to have happened. But when you're looking at this story start to unfold, it's starting to look like this guy actually paid people to stage this attack so that he could influence culture. Now, why would he want to influence the culture? How about this picture? Let's just start here. Here's him as his activist self in the White House with the Obamas, with Sheila Jackson at who knows where, and at a rally at a protest with Maxine Waters, and here he is with Kamala Harris with their little fists up, like they're gonna stand up to the patriarchy or whatever. And this is it. This is it, guys. You're looking at it. Like, the guy's a political activist, and it would make total sense why he would pay the Nigerian brothers to go and beat him up and put a noose around his neck, and then he could tell this crazy tale of how it was a MAGA supporting people. And I think even that he had alleged they were white. I don't know. But nonetheless, that doesn't even matter. What matters is when you read what Q has to say. You guys got to hear this. So Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are applying political pressure regarding Chicago PD regarding Smollett false flag case. This is a question. It says, what bill did the Senate recently pass regarding lynching? The one we just talked about. It says, who were the authors of the bill? Of course, Harris and Booker, right? They were two of the ones, I think. It says, what false flag event took place just prior to the passing of the bill? That would be this Jussie Smollett thing. It says, did the false flag event involve a noose? Did the false flag event sway senators in their decision to prevent fake news attacks regarding Smollett case? Did fake news contact many senators prior to vote seeking out pro-nay in an attempt to coerce using Smollett case as foundation for possible future smear? What is the mathematical probability of these two events occurring within the same time period? What is the relationship of Smollett and Booker Harris? Will Rahm Emanuel get involved? Will the Chicago PD cave under pressure? These people are sick. Hashtag wake up America Q. Now, what's really sad and sick about all of this is that this, if true, if it all turns out to be that Jussie paid these two guys to come and attack him, this is such a perversion of everything our country is built on that I don't know how any rational, normal person could look at this from the outside and say, oh, it's totally justified. I was reading a story today. There was one of these, Ellen Page, I think, was on a late night show. She's some kind of actress, and she's on some late night show, and she's basically trying to turn it into that this whole thing that Jussie did was because of Trump, and it's Trump's fault. And you're like sitting there going like, are there no bounds to the lunacy of the left, right? That they can take something where this guy, obviously, if it's true, I'm stressing that, if it's true, did something that is so despicable and so deplorable and so sickening and perverted and a perversion of justice, really, that they can turn around and say, but it's President Trump's fault that he did it. What world do they live in? But anyway, if you look at this, the connections between obviously Jussie and his activist self with his connections to the Obamas and Maxine Waters, Sheila Jackson, and Kamala Harris is obviously noted here. And you have to wait and see what occurs with this, how it goes further. But Rahm Emanuel, obviously over there in Chicago, may have to get involved. And the question is really, will the Chicago PD cave under pressure? And that's the question. Because, I think that you can face up to like 3 years in prison for filing a false police report, especially one that alleges the types of things that Jussie did. You know, staging a false attack on himself in order to pursue some sort of political means. That is, if that's not a perversion of justice in our country, I don't know what is, right? And like Q says, you know, if it's true, these people are sick, and we need to wake up. And then Q in the next one responds to the post that we just went through with this little graphic that talks about a quick history lesson. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. It had 100% Republican support and 23% Democratic support. The 14th Amendment gave citizenship to freed slaves. 94% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. 15th Amendment gave the right to vote for all. 100% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. And Q just says irony. Q. And it's true, because they want to paint the Republican Party, the Democrats want to paint the Republicans as the party of racists and all this stuff, xenophobes and all that, when in reality, historically, that would be the Democrat Party. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be blanket generalizations here, but you can see here that these numbers and this graphic speaks for itself, right? But you guys can do with that as you may. I'm going to leave that to you. And I'm just reporting this, so, you know, it's like, I'm just the messenger here. But I asked the question here in the next one, which I think is very important. We've talked about this before here on the channel. How do you infiltrate the mainstream media? And it gives examples here. Well, let's see. The ABC News executive producer, Ian Cameron, is married to, you guessed it, Susan Rice, the national security advisor under in the Hussein Obama administration. CBS News, CNN journalist Biana Vitalievna, whatever, married to Peter R. Orszag, director of Office of Management Budget under the Obama administration, of course. CBS News president David Rhodes, brother of Ben Rhodes, the national security advisor under Barack Hussein Obama. ABC News correspondent Claire Shipman married to Jay Carney, White House press secretary under Hussein, of course. It says mainstream media, and it gives some dots here. But it says mainstream media equals arm extension of the Democratic Party? Question. Nothing to see here. Q. So that just talks about the infiltration that we all know took place, where you have basically the same people who are over in the administration are married to the people who are giving you the news. I wonder if there's some conflict of interest there. I wonder, right? So, of course, the next one here is this Time article that we looked at a long time ago, right? And if you guys remember, this is an article from, I don't even remember, this is a while ago. This is from, June 30th of 2018. It talks about the 25 most influential people on the internet. Of course, Donald Trump's in here. And like I had just pulled up, one of the other people that happens to have made this list was, you guessed it, right here. I'm going to just scroll down to it. The anonymous individual known as Q. Right? Talking about here how an anonymous user simply known as Q started posting cryptic messages on the controversial message board 4chan, and that's interesting. Time would make a top 25 most influential people on the internet and name Q as one of those, right? But it says they knew the reach then. Think about it now, or think about now, Q. So they knew the amount of reach and influence that Q would have all the way back then in that time, and now it's only gotten bigger, and it's only going to keep getting bigger. So that's kind of what that's insinuating. Here is an anon who posts 2 clips out of that same piece from Time about the 25 most influential internet figures, and it has the one with President Trump here and the one with Q. And of course, Q in response posts this. Now, what is this? This is actually what we just went over about how all of these people who their wives and husbands or brothers and or family are all working. You know, you have the first of all, well, let's just look. It says ABC News executive producer is married to Susan Rice, like we just said. Rhodes is the brother of Ben Rhodes. All of these people are married to others. How do you think that they infiltrated the mainstream media? Just ask yourself that. And Q says, the world is waking up to the truth. Expect attacks to dramatically intensify across all platforms, Q. So, I mean, now that we're exposing them, I mean, obviously what Q's saying is that they're going to turn up the heat on everyone. But the reality is, I don't understand how people can just look at this and go, "Oh well, yeah, that's totally normal." And you're like, "Well, no, not really, because it shows that there could be a bias. Maybe we should look into it a little further." No, 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 no. It's totally fine. Okay, well, we'll see. But this is what's coming up. Q's telling us, right? So we'll have that to look forward to. Not really looking forward to it. But anyway, this is the next post, which is a tweet from President Trump where he basically says the Mueller investigation is totally conflicted, illegal, and rigged, should never have been allowed to begin, except for the collusion and many crimes committed by the Democrats, witch hunt, right? And of course, the Anon puts in here that it was a new POTUS tweet, 1 minute delta, and it gives the link to the tweet itself. And Q says 3 today. What are the odds of that, Q? So what that means is if you guys watched the last video, this one right here, before this, there were 2 more Q posts where within under 1 minute, there was basically President Trump and Q posting at the same time. Now, what does that mean? That means what Q's alluded to before is that there are 2 phones, both with military encryption, both near the president. There's the president tweeting, and there's the Q post, and they're hitting send, post and send at the same tweet at the same time. And there's less than a minute delay, so maybe a few seconds of a delay between those. But it's meant to be a message to the Anons and everyone out there watching that Q and President Trump are one in the same. Do you guys not understand that yet? And if you haven't gotten that one, then, you got to catch up. That's where we're at. And Q's asking, what are the odds of that? So there's been 3 of those today. Now, the next one here is Q actually requesting a graphic for the 0 delta. Now, the 0 delta is obviously referring to the fact that the tweets and the posts were in the same exact time frame, meaning the 0 delta, less than 1 minute of a difference between these posts. And here's the graphic that the Anon put together that Q requested, where it actually lists the times, and it shows, like, here's President Trump's tweet at 1:28. Here's a Q post at 1:28. Here's President Trump's tweet at 1:29. Here's a Q post at 1:29. Here's President Trump's Q post or tweet at 6:45, and here's President Trump's or Q's post at 6:44, but was within a minute, so less than a minute of a time change or time difference. So those are the 3 posts that are meant to show you this is coordinated, guys. And Q responding to that says, well done, Patriot. Important to note, Q drops just prior to POTUS. Something big is coming, Q. So we have that to look forward to. If there's something big coming, I mean, gosh, we've getting big thing after big thing after big thing. So who knows what's next, right? Now, this next one is fascinating. You guys are going to want to listen to this. There's a few spelling mistakes, and Q says it's okay. Don't pay attention to those. Pay attention to the general information that's being shared here. This is obviously Q telling us what may be an actual conversation between the new Attorney General, William Barr, and the head of the special counsel looking into the Russia collusion probe, Robert Mueller. So this is apparently a conversation back and forth. You guys are going to want to hear this. This is pretty crazy. So this is William Barr to Robert Mueller. He says, Bob, show me the evidence and reasoning for why this investigation was started and still ongoing. And Robert Mueller responds, with regards to the president, we have found no links or ties to any foreign entity, etc. Then William Barr says to Robert Mueller, the mandate was clear. Verify and investigate reports of possible foreign collusion between President Trump and Russia. What justification existed to effectively launch a massive domestic foreign surveillance campaign against the president, president-elect president, and members of his transition campaign team? That's a good question, Mr. Barr. That's a good question. And Mueller says, the Steele dossier, along with media corroboration of those findings. Okay. So Barr says to Mueller, was the Steele report a, quote, trusted and verified, unquote, report per intel to continues, especially considering the funding party was the opposition party? And Mueller to Barr says, those facts were never taken into consideration. Great. Perfect. I'm so glad. It says the FISA court granted the authority or authorization to conduct based on conclusions presented. So Barr asked Mueller, was FISA court made aware of all the details surrounding the dossier? Mueller to William Barr says, the Attorney General says, no. We believe there was an urgency placed on the authorization given the gravity and timeline of events that those involved negated to populate fully. What are they talking about? Is Q telling us that it's possible that Robert Mueller told the Attorney General William Barr, in response to his question of why would you use unverified information to go after the president, his literal answer was there was urgency and the timeline of events wouldn't allow. That's like saying, I mean, that's how lynch mobs get started, right? Well, we didn't have time to look at the facts. The guy seemed pretty guilty, so we just did it, right? I mean, this is the kind of insanity that we're dealing with here, people. If this is a true conversation that actually took place. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. So then Barr Mueller says, why were efforts made to continue investigating the president interrupt his official capacity in governing if the only doc presented was unsubstantiated and unverified? Why were questions and threat of subpoena communicated to the president if no factual foundation existed? All charges thus far are unrelated to the original mandate. Why are you still active in pursuing a crime if no verifiable evidence or evidence through discovery exists? That's a great question. That is a great question. Now you have Barr talking to Rod Rosenstein, saying, what justification did you have to effectively expand the mandate, not report that expansion to Congress in order to seek a crime outside of Russia collusion? What specific reasoning and or facts existed to justify the appointment of a special counsel to begin with per the law? Why did you recommend to Sessions that he should recuse? Why wasn't the mandate, budget, and regular updates provided to Congress upon request? Why is everything kept confidential and under inappropriate classification? Was the purpose of investigating to find crime versus investigate evidence of a crime? Classified 1 through 99Q. And this sums up everything, guys. This is everything we've been talking about right here. This is it. William Barr is going in there and confronting Mueller and saying, listen, in what world do you take unverified evidence and then use it to spy on the president and the president-elect? And not even that, unverified evidence that came from the opposition party, right? In what world? And then you don't even go out and try to verify it. You just say, oh, we were in a rush. It was urgent. So we just said, you know what, we'll just go with it. And then all these questions for Rod Rosenstein are very important. Why did Rod Rosenstein expand the mandate and the scope of the investigation outside of the Russia collusion? What specific reasoning existed or facts existed to justify the appointment of the special counsel to begin with in the law? And why did you recommend that Sessions recuse himself? It makes no sense. Why wasn't the mandate, budget, and regular updates, why wasn't Congress provided the information they requested every single time they requested it? Why is everything kept confidential and under inappropriate classification? Guys, you're seeing it. But this is the most important part here. It says, was the purpose of investigating to find a crime, or was it to investigate evidence of a crime? And there's a big difference. If it was an investigation to find a crime, that's called a fishing expedition. That's a complete miscarriage of justice. You are not allowed to just open open-ended investigations and just start investigating every single person under the sun. That's not how this works. You have to have evidence on which to predicate an investigation. But, and it was instead of investigating evidence of a crime. So, if all that's true, I don't even know what to say. You guys do with that as you may. Q says, disregard any misspelling on the move, Q. So obviously if there's anything that was misspelled there, I think like here it says Bart. One of these says Bart. Maybe it got changed. Anyway, yeah, that is, yeah, right here, Bart. So yeah, that's what that is. You guys see what we're up against here? It's not a game anymore. All right, so now we're going to look at this one. This is a tweet from President Trump where he talks about William Barr is arriving at the Justice Department that desperately needs an infusion of credibility. Yeah, I think that's kind of an understatement almost at this point. It says, do you believe in coincidences? The kitchen is hot. Q. I wonder. Well, you know, everything's getting pretty crazy right now, so this is what's happening. It's all heating up. Now, the next one here is this graphic that was put together by one of the Anons here. Let me pull it up. So yeah, it just kind of gives it's a better graphic to show the three different zero delta connections between the Q posts and the President Trump posts. So tweets. So just kind of another way to look at them that shows the timestamps to the second to show you exactly how close they are and were. And I mean, think about it. It's not just Q posting, after President Trump. So it's not like they have a really fast computer and as soon as President Trump tweets, they hit send. No, it's the exact opposite. These are posting first and then President Trump's tweeting within a minute, under a minute. 3 times today. Do you think that's a message? I don't know. You guys do with that as you may. Anyway, it says excellent graphic, seconds matter, mathematically impossible, 17th Q. So yeah, there we go. I think this was this the 17th one? I'm not sure. That'd be pretty incredible if it was the 17th time that they had a zero delta. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, the next one here is an Anon posting this tweet from CNN. So what do they tweet? Former acting FBI director Andrew McCabe says President Trump's own words were among the reasons top officials decided to open a counterintelligence probe and obstruction of justice investigation into him. So this is Andrew McCabe backtracking on what he said at the 60 Minutes interview, basically saying that President Trump's own words were among the reasons we decided to look at this. It's because we can't trust him. And the Anon puts here, classic deflection, the quote, the dog ate my homework, unquote. Evidence of crime is what you need, Mr. FBI, not dislike and bias to open investigation. I can't agree more. Right? So, because it's saying that his own words, I didn't like his words and I'm biased against him, so we investigate him, right? Q calls this a dead cat bounce and says nothing can stop this. Q. The dead cat bounce obviously is referring to it's something that it's a phrase that's used commonly to describe stock market fluctuation where you have a stock that drops out and then it momentarily goes up and then it only to go back down. It's a reference that was made popular back in the 80s about I think it was the Malaysian stock market or something. But it basically in this case it's saying that Andrew McCabe already crashed when he got on 60 Minutes and said what he said. And now he's doing everything he can to make up for it. And this is the dead cat bounce of him saying, well, it was his own words. We had good cause. He said that, he liked Russian dressing. So we thought, we got him now. I mean, really, that's about what the level of the bar to cross, I think, for the FBI and the Justice Department is at this point is that he literally had a salad with Russian dressing. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, the next one here is pretty cool. This is another post from the Twitter page of this Mariah S. And they basically put this new graphic together. Now, you remember the one that had previously the FISAgate poster. And now it's just added these other basically like faux movie posters about what's to come. You got 45 that looks like the that 24 cover. And the movie Tarmac, which I can't wait to watch that one. FISAgate, Trump 2020 sanctions. It's a funny way of showing like this is what's to come, right? And Q basically says, impressive, most impressive. And I agree. I think this is great. I'm going to retweet it afterwards. So now we have new posts coming out, which are talking about some pretty incredible stuff. First of all, this is what we're supposed to look at. Now, this connects Pat Brown, the former governor, I should say, with John Pelosi, who is the father of Nancy Pelosi, with William Newsom, who is the, I guess, grandfather of Gavin now, who is the governor, I guess, and Jerry Brown, the former governor, Pat Brown, I guess, was the former governor. And it all connects back to the Gettys, it looks like, right? I think that's what it's meant to tell us. The Getty family are the ones, Paul Getty, this incredibly rich family of individuals who seem to, it's being insinuated here, have a complete control over California, but you guys will let me know what more you have there. Now, this is interesting right here, where if you read this letter, or article, I should say, It basically explains how there's this dynastic thing that's happened with 4 different families in California, and where you have the Browns, the Pelosi's, the Newsoms, and the Gettys, 4 different families and 3 generations of control in California. Now, how did this happen, you ask? It happened because it was by design, in my opinion. It's not by accident. But you read through this article, pretty incredible. It talks about how they all were all these different families are connected to one another, and they've all held control of California for quite some time. Now, of course, there were breaks in between that. Certain other individuals took over. I know Reagan took over at one point. But if you look at this, you can understand the power players that are involved here, right? That's what you have to look at. And Q says, what family runs California? They are all connected. Wealth, power, influence, rigged. The more you know, Q. So, I mean, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, it seems pretty incredible to think that these 4 families have been in control for quite some time, but it all seems to be easily connected back to the Gettys and others inside of this 4-family super dynasty, I guess you would call it, that's been controlling California for quite some time. And I'll look to the comments to see what you guys have to say about all this. I'm very interested to find out what your thoughts are, and that's basically where we're going to leave it. I want to say thank you guys for watching. A few more things before we go. You guys want to stick around for one more minute. We got a few more announcements to make. First of all, if you want to help the channel, obviously the best way to do is always to hit the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you hit that like button if you like what you saw here today. Another way you can help out is to watch these videos, share them on your social media, and make sure that you leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down in the comments, because I'd like to hear what you guys have to think about everything. And like I always do, I'm going to keep doing the research. As soon as this video is over, I'm going to start going more deep into all of these different Q posts and try to find out as much as I can so I can bring you more information as it's made available. Now, with that being said, there's a few other ways you can help out the actual channel itself. First of all, you can come over here and find me at JustinFormU on Twitter, and you can come over here and give me a follow. It helps out big time, and I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, to everybody who comes over here and follows me here. And also, don't forget to check out JustinFormedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk, and that has great stuff. You can get all the YouTube videos, you get links to all these great articles, news feeds. You get all of the links to the QAnon information, where to find it, where to go, and you get all the links to these different news information websites that'll help you out to get started on finding good sources for information. Now, another couple ways you can help out are both financial, because I depend on you guys. You know, YouTube does what they do with demonetization, so I depend on you guys to come help me. This is Patreon. It's a crowdfunding website. There'll be a link in the description. You come here to this page, click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation, and when you help contribute, you help contribute to this work being done 24/7, 365, so I can always be working to bring you guys this information as it's made available. So I appreciate your help and support over here. And also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you guys want to make a one-time donation. That really helps out as well, and I really appreciate your help over here. So you just come here. Links will be in the description of both, and I appreciate your help for keeping this channel alive. So now, before we go, we're going to do a little segment called God's Grace is Greater. It's a segment we do at the end of each one of these episodes, because I know we talk about some pretty negative stuff sometimes, and I think that the incredible glory of God is what we should be sharing with one another no matter what, in any circumstance. And that's why I always take a moment at the end of every episode to remind myself and everyone out there about the greatness and love that God has for you. But in today's scripture reading, we're going to look at the book of Romans in chapter 5, and it talks about faith triumphing. And I want to share these verses with you. It's Romans chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. And it says, "Therefore, since we have been declared righteous by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. And also, through him, we have obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. And not only that, but we also rejoice in our afflictions, because we know that affliction produces endurance. Endurance produces proven character, and proven character produces hope. This hope does not disappoint, because God's love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who was given to us." And that's it. It's simple. I think that this is one of my favorite verses, because it explains how affliction actually leads us to hope. And you're like, how does that make sense? Well, it makes sense exactly how it's laid out here. Because it says, affliction produces endurance, and that endurance produces proven character, and that proven character produces hope. And that's what you need to take away from this, and that's what you need to share with your friends and family and the whole world, because that's what God calls us to do. God calls us to share this glorious message with one another, because it is the message of hope that we have to share. We cannot focus on things, on the affliction. We have to focus on hope, because hope is the byproduct of that affliction. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you guys for joining me here. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you smash the like button if you like what you saw and heard here today. And of course, I want to thank you guys for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.